All right, grade 12 review crew that I had, the 4 students that were with me today. Right after you guys finished, I had to go back and I had to put this down because I knew conceptually something was wrong. Because if I went in FET and I plugged light bulbs into this circuit, I know that that light bulb would be the brightest. I've done this before. Okay, so I went back and I just had to, I was probably going too quickly and I knew I made a mistake in the math somewhere. So I started again by drawing out the circuit. And in the problem that we did in multiple choice, they didn't give me the resistance numbers. They just told me that each resistor has the same resistance. So I plugged in values of 2 ohms for each resistor like we did. And I also said that the battery is 10 volts, okay? So what I wanted to do is I wanted to figure out first what would be the voltage across this and what would be the voltage across that. As we discussed in the review class, whatever that voltage is split for those resistors, the voltage would be the same across each branch, okay? And the question was asking us X, Y, and Z, which resistor would have the most power going through it. And we said that power is equal to V squared over R. So if we're able to solve the voltage going across each component, okay, if I can find the voltage going across each of these components, V squared divided by R would give me the power. All right. And they said that the answer was Z when we said it was X. So there must be something that we were doing wrong. So I went back and I colored this green, that branch. I'm going to figure out the total resistance of that branch. And I'm going to figure out the total resistance of that branch. So in green, I did it 1 over R total, okay, is equal to 1 over 2. That's that branch. And now here's where I went wrong. I forgot, okay. The second branch down here, the total resistance of that branch is 2 plus 2 is 4. Okay, I didn't do that. So 1 over 2 plus 1 over 4 is equal to 3 over 4. So the total resistance of that branch of this, if I distill it down into one resistor, the total resistance is 4 over 3 ohms. Okay, that's very different than what I calculated to begin with. All right, and then if I look at, if I look at this branch, the total resistance is 1/2 plus 1/2 is 1. So in the end, the total resistance of that is greater than the total resistance of that. Okay, 4 over 3 is equal to 1.333. So it's greater. So more of the voltage is going to be split onto that branch than onto that branch. Okay, and I can figure out how much volts are going to go onto that branch. So that's 1.33 ohms when I distilled it down, and that's 1 ohms. Make sure you can try to practice that. Okay, so the total resistance of that is 1.33. Total resistance of that is 1. So how did I calculate the voltage? Okay, well, like I told you in class, the voltage that's going to be read by that voltmeter is the resistance of this component divided by the total resistance. So now it's series, so 1 plus 1.33 times 10 volts. Okay, the voltage across that is going to be 4.29 volts. And the voltage across that is going to be 5.7 volts. Okay, so that's kind of opposite of what we were doing in the review session. So now knowing that, I know that there is 5.7 volts going across that. I know that there is 4.29 volts going across that one. And I have 5.7 volts going across that entire section, which is split in half. So I'll have the least amount of voltage going through that resistor. I'll have the most amount of voltage going across that resistor, and I'll have the mediocre voltage. And so if I go down here, I showed you to calculate power, V squared over R, they all have the same resistance. Okay, but now the difference is the voltages, okay? So 5.7 volts squared gives me the most power. Then X is 4.29, okay, that's middle power. And then that last one right over here, okay, it's going to take 5.7 volts and divide it by 2 because there's 2 resistors on that branch. So it's going to have the least power. So a good way of doing this is just drawing this circuit in FET, in the circuit builder, and seeing for yourself. Okay, so you can play around with the circuit builder in FET, okay, to draw many different circuits and make sure that your math is okay. All right, so that's what I did right after we were done, and then I was able to find out that that's why the answer was that.